Thanks for joining us for this week's MyMoneycast. We're still working on Season 2, so for this week we thought we'd play you the best bits from our last 5 episodes from Season 1. Here's our mega mix of episodes 6 through 10. Enjoy! This week we're looking at all things consumer rights, especially because the shops are now starting to open back up. The first question before we get started on any of that is, what am I talking about? What are consumer rights? Well, consumer rights are the rights you have in law when you spend money. What are your rights when it comes to buying goods? So first of all, if you buy a good in a shop, as opposed to online or over the phone, there are slightly different rules. So if you bought something in a shop, the rule that we're talking about here is the Consumer Rights Act 2015. If that thing fails and is faulty in the first 30 days, you can take it back to where you bought it from. Now, the big difference if you buy online, if you buy at home or over the phone, is after getting your goods, you have 14 days to change your mind, get a full refund. It doesn't have to be because the item is faulty. If anything on this checklist applies to your item, but if anything doesn't apply to this item, if anything's broken here, you could say the item is faulty. This is the way to remember it. It's sad fart, and it stands for this. An item must be of satisfactory quality. It has to be as described. It has to be fit for the purpose for which it was made. And it needs to last a reasonable length of time. If it doesn't meet those criteria, let's say you bought something and you decide color's not quite right, or you didn't get the size right, you actually don't have any legal right to return that, and you're relying on what we call store policy now. What about services? What do I mean by services? You pay for a service in a shop. You have to expect them to repeat or fix a service if it's not carried out with reasonable care and skill. So bear in mind that just because it says it's a deal doesn't always mean it is a deal. Don't say nothing, say something. Make sure you make a complaint if you're owed something. Be as quick as you can because there is a time frame. If you do feel like you have an issue to report, here's how you do it. You can call the Citizen Advice Consumer Helpline. Today I'm joined by Martin James, who is Head of Media at Resolver and a consumer rights expert.
So we're seeing a massive wave of people seeking refunds. Loads of issues with shops and people trying to return goods at the moment. There's lots and lots of businesses who are ignoring the law at the moment, which I have quite a few things to say about. We're expecting to see a big increase in issues to do with financial difficulties, depressingly, over the next few months. So it's really, really important that everyone knows what their rights are, how to ask for payment holidays, and how to fight back if a firm that's lent you money isn't playing fair. So what I'm generally advising is to be reasonable. Have a think about what you would like to do and what you can afford to do. So imagine if your flight's been cancelled, you are entitled to that refund, but would you be willing to kind of move that forward to maybe September, October, or maybe the same time next year? So do bear in mind that if you do take out a voucher or something, there is still an element of risk. But you are doing a good thing and helping the firm stay in business. I don't want to kind of ruin people's days and everything, but look at everything like it might be dodgy. So don't necessarily believe online reviews. Double check that a company is legit before you send it your money, and only pay using a debit or credit card online if you can.
This week we're taking on FinTech and all things technology and money. Oh, what do you mean? What's FinTech? Well, FinTech is, I like this word, a portmanteau. Portmanteau is when you take two words and mash them up together to make one word, and it's a portmanteau of financial technology. So let's first of all talk about cryptocurrency. It's not just Bitcoin. There are hundreds of different types of currency. So what is a cryptocurrency? Well, it's a digital currency. It doesn't have cash attached to it. There are no coins. There are no paper notes. How do I get into it? How do I make some money? The easiest way to make money on Bitcoin was to mine Bitcoin. There is another way. You can buy it just like another commodity. The other problem with Bitcoin is storage. Bitcoin is stored in a digital wallet, and normally that's on a physical device.
The diggers are not searching for a hard drive, yet James Howells wishes they were, because the one he accidentally threw away is now worth millions.
Today, those Bitcoins are worth, and I've just done the math, £57,750,000. Now, the other thing that's kind of changed how banking works is something we call open banking. What do you mean opening my bank account? I'm not opening my bank to everyone. It's very, very different.
Open banking aims to re-energise banking by making it easier for customers and small to medium-sized businesses to give access to their transaction data, compare accounts and access new products.
So let's take a look at 4 or 5 apps that I think you might be interested in. So let's start with the rise of what we call the app based banks. So these are guys like Starling and Monzo. And the thing to say about Starling and Monzo that a lot of people don't realize when they first sign up to them is that they are full bank accounts. They have all the same protections and all the same rights and responsibilities of a normal bank account. The way Curve works is you take all your normal bank cards, you load it into an app, and then your card, the actual Curve card you get in the post, can be any card that you want from your app. Apps are changing the way that money is being used, the way we're interacting with it. And this week on Real Talk, I'm joined by Wani Yosepa, who is a FinTech team lead at Grace Spark Partners.
When you use technology now, it's so much easier, so much more interesting to use and engage with. I'd say the most interesting thing about FinTech for me is the way how inclusive it is. So we've had clients who are, providing services to remote regions of Pakistan, areas that didn't have banking services before, but they have mobiles.
Make sure you do your research before you're doing a new app. Just like we said there, if you're looking at reviews, make sure there's a decent number of reviews at a decent review level before you go ahead and pull the trigger. The more you keep your secure password, the more your bank is going to keep money safe, the more your apps are going to keep money safe, etc., etc. What is economic abuse? You probably would have heard of the 4 other types of abuse that people talk about. So sexual, emotional, physical, and neglect. But financial or economic abuse, as we're talking about, isn't one that really gets spoken about huge amounts sometimes. The definition we're working to here is behavior which controls a partner's ability to acquire, get, use, and maintain, keep economic resources. And what that does is it creates an economic dependency or instability.
It's a gradual process, little by little, bit by bit.
Now, in terms of looking at what are the possible signs and how can I tell whether I or someone that's close to me might possibly be a victim of economic abuse. On the Surviving Economic Abuse website, these are the PDFs that are available in the resource page, and they're bloody awesome. First of all, signs of someone potentially being a victim of economic abuse. Number 1, not having enough money. Now, all of these things on its own might not mean anything. It might be a collection of these things. It might be how these things are done. If someone has a shared account and a joint account with someone else, if there's some sort of conflict with the partner about the money, that can be a red flag. I think the biggest one on here that struck out for me and the most clearest indicator is that someone's saying, oh, he won't let me spending money on that, I can't. Someone not working might be, especially if someone leaves a job that they've loved all their life and suddenly they just quit their job for no apparent reason. That might be a red flag we need to look at. In terms of not socializing, people who are making excuses not to join for coffee or meals out because they don't want to spend the money or don't want to have to justify the spend or the going out to their abusive partner. In terms of appearance, people who are victims of economic abuse and certainly other types of abuse may have the thing about having ill-fitting clothing or run-down clothing.
I used to say to him, I'm not going to survive you, I have to leave you.
With economic abuse, it is about isolating you even further, because without money, you can't, rent somewhere because you need money.
Well, what do I do if I need to get help? If you're concerned about someone else, express that concern. Tell them you're worried. Don't ask too many questions. Provide practical help. If you can, offer the spare room up. Or maybe it's just a case of helping with some food or groceries. If there is immediate danger, call 999. If you're concerned about yourself, only once you're safe, then try and get things like the documents together, your passport or driving license, anything with official with your name on it. If you're leaving the property, make sure you tell people that you're going and that you're not going to be the one that's paying the bills. Then secure new financial situations. So new bank account, freeze any joint account, freeze any joint accounts, and change your PIN number. Reach out to any organizations that you might need to for financial aid. Now, the last thing to say is this is the sites that we're going to put up for this week. So the first one at the top, Surviving Economic Abuse. They are the ones who have helped us with this entire show and all the information in it. If you are currently in a situation of domestic violence, for ladies, you will call the National Domestic Violence Helpline, 0808 2000 24/7. I'm joined by Jasbinder Kaur, who is a training officer for Surviving Economic Abuse. And we also have Dr. Nicholas Sharp-Jeffs, who is the CEO of the same organisation.
Actually, what underpins physical or perhaps sexual abuse very often is emotional abuse, economic abuse, lots of different ways to control a partner.
It's not just about controlling somebody's money and finances, but about their access to transport or their mobile phone.
And this week, it's a big one. It's the basics of budgeting. First of all, what is a budget? Well, a budget is very, very simply knowing what you've got coming in and what you've got going out. That's it. It's just knowing those two things, and being able to have more money coming in than you have going out is the ultimate goal. Always have that money for a rainy day, because you never know when it's going to start pouring. Wants versus needs. This is one of the biggest things that people struggle with. A need is something to keep the status quo, that is required to keep the status quo, and a want is something that will enhance life or make life a little bit nicer. It took me a long time to realize that my cigarettes weren't a need. I just really wanted them. If you're ever in a store and you're thinking about buying something, just really quickly pull out your phone and just search for the same item online. You'll be surprised how much the in-store prices might be inflated. If you're lying on your budget, you're just lying to yourself. And the biggest thing here is, don't keep your head in the sand. If something's not right, if your budget is in a minus, if you need to change something, the longer you ignore it, the harder it becomes to do. Well, how do I do a budget? Well, how do I make one? There are a number of ways to do a budget, but actually, it just matters that you do it.
Aim to pay off your debts first, especially those with the highest interest rate. Put simply, you need to spend less than you have coming in, but you also need to set yourself a realistic goal to get the best outcome.
Paper, pen, phone, I don't care. Just do it. Now, the other thing about this is that when you start doing your budget, you might start to realize that you're spending a lot of money on certain things or certain areas of your life. And one of those things is normally your household costs and, your living expenses. So we're going to take a look at how we can cut some of those costs. First and foremost, save money on your household bills. I cannot stress this one enough. You can go to these websites, USwitch, Compare the Market, Go Compare, Confused.com, all these kind of websites to compare pretty much the price of any bill you're trying to pay for. Don't go shopping hungry, don't go shopping drunk, don't go shopping under the influence. You will spend more money. Try the brand challenge. Go down one step. So if you're used to having name brand ketchup, try the supermarket's own brand ketchup next. And if that works, maybe try the value stuff that costs like 10p. Don't be ripped off by name brand medicine.
If they have an identical PL code, which is on the back of the packet, they are the same tablet.
Just remind us again the price difference.
$4.99 for the one branded Beecham's, $1.85 for the one in Wilko. Wow.
So if you are going to sign up for a free trial, don't fall into what we call forgetting payments. Leave shopping items in your online shopping cart for 24 hours.
Because sometimes the retailer might send you an email saying, well, hello, Miss Bridget. We noticed you were interested in so-and-so. Here's a voucher for 10% off if you buy it now.
So cashback is basically free money back when you buy stuff. Don't put hair in your food, and don't put your washing in with your food. We are doing Coronanomics part 2. First of all, let's talk about benefits and working. So the furlough scheme will change, and has changed from today, actually, from yesterday, to allow people to come back to work part-time. This is the time where we're worried that people might start to see redundancies, because the government's amount of support is going to start to reduce. If you are made redundant, make sure you know your rights about that. In terms of benefits, at one point they froze benefit repayment claims. Those payments are now being collected again. Next up, let's talk about housing. So all court action for evictions is on hold until at least the 23rd of August. So bailiffs can't evict you, landlords can't get an eviction order, although you can't be evicted now until August. Here's a quick video just to show you what you could do and should do if you find yourself in that position later down the line.
You've been evicted for rent arrears. It's a really difficult experience. Renting from a friend or a relative is a good way of building up your rent payment history. If you can't rent from a friend or relative, see if they can act as guarantor. Your local council is legally obliged to help you find a home if you're homeless. This can include giving you advice and helping you with the costs of a deposit or rent in advance. There are charities that give free debt and money advice, so use them.
So things are really starting to move with holidays. Things are starting to reopen, and you're hearing lots of things about air bridges. I will just say this, there is no certainty at the moment about what the guidance will be or which countries. So do be careful about booking future trips, and don't assume that if you book a trip now that you'll automatically be able to cancel it. Linked to holidays and trips, we're talking about events and gigs. No real change here, actually. The rules are still the same. If they cancelled and you have no say in that cancellation, then you're entitled to some money back. Last up, I want to talk quickly about debt and borrowing. So credit cards and loan payment freezes have extended to the end of October. So don't assume that these payment holidays are cancellations of fee. They are just moving them from now to later. I've got one more thing I'd like to share with you, and that's how you can carry on doing more learning about financial education while we take a little break. We have worked hard with the Mix to get this Money Hub up and running and provided articles and all sorts of things to make this really useful for young people. If you have children aged anywhere between 5 and 11, there's a program for you here, Family Money Twist. You would sign up for all of those courses here at learning.mybank.org. And these initiatives are supported by Kickstart Money and UK Power Networks. So after 10 weeks, here we are, end of season 1. We'll be back in a few weeks' time with season 2, starting with students and your money. But for now, this is Nick Smith-Patel signing off, saying stay safe, take care, bye-bye. Thanks for joining us this week. As always, make sure you stay in contact with us on our social media channels to find out when we go live for season 2. And if you have any kind of comments, suggestions, or anything else you want to throw our way, email us at info@mybank.org. We'll see you soon. Take care.